Mr. David Chu, you are recognized at your desk for your adjournment in memory.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, it is with great sadness that I ask that we adjourn in the memory of Tyrone McGraw, a truly inspiring young man who is one of the brightest lights in our millennial generation, known and loved by many in our capital community. Tyrone started life with none of the advantages that the vast majority of us take for granted. He grew up in San Francisco's Bayview Hunters Point, one of the most challenged inner city neighborhoods in our state. But Tyrone saw himself as someone who was blessed, someone given opportunities to succeed where others in his community had not. With the guidance and support from a few caring adults, a mother who raised him, a pair of dedicated godparents, Tyrone overcame every obstacle that life threw at him, and then some. He lost his mother to cancer when he was just 14. After his godparents took him in, his godfather suffered a stroke and died just 4 months later. Tyrone saw his own life as a chance to be a living legacy to those who had cared for him. Before his passage, his godfather would write down goals and values on a piece of paper for Tyrone to find in their house. And from those pieces of paper, he learned never to be satisfied, to count his blessings, to remember where he came from, to always give back. Tyrone had every reason to give up on life, and he did just the opposite. His life was a chance to be a living legacy to those who had cared for him. He was a standout athlete, excelling at football and track and field. He graduated from Archbishop Reardon High School as class valedictorian, declining scholarships from Princeton, Harvard, and Yale to go to Stanford University, where he graduated with honor. Tyrone considered studying medicine, but decided he could help more people by entering public service. He took part in mentorship programs serving young people in Chicago's inner city, externed for California Supreme Court Justice Ronald George, interned at the White House during the Obama administration. And Tyrone brought his talents to this Capitol as an Assembly Fellow and ultimately as a Capitol staffer. He made an immediate impression on everyone he met. Tyrone was generous and caring, gracious and humble, warm and genuine, someone all of us knew would go on to do great things. And while he often felt the weight of expectations from those around him, he would always help a friend or a colleague in need without a moment's hesitation. Tyrone was diagnosed with cancer in 2014. He faced that challenge the way he did all others, determined to beat the odds yet again. All of us are heartbroken to have lost such an incredible light before his time. His passage leaves a void in our community. But his memory does not end with his passing, because he exemplified the very best of human spirit. In a commencement speech delivered at his high school alma mater last year, Tyrone called upon graduates to get up, believe in themselves, let others define their experience, to find another way to accomplish their goals. His experience, his memory, his inspiration will provide an everlasting guide to those of us who had the privilege to meet and work with this extraordinary young man. Colleagues, I know you will join me in extending our deepest sympathies to his family, his friends, and his loved ones, and I understand some of his family are here today. He is survived by his girlfriend, Maite, his godmother, Sherelle, 5 siblings, 12 nieces, nephews, and his godsons, his pride and joy, Armani and Chase. To all of them, know that we are thinking and that we are caring for you in the same way that Tyrone cared for all of us. I ask that we adjourn today's session in memory of Tyrone.
Thank you, Ms. Chu. Mr. Bocanegra.
Sometimes along this journey you meet, at least here on this earth, you meet a lot of good people. And I've been very fortunate to meet a lot of good people along the way, especially in public service. I was very blessed that in my first term, in the end, I had Tyrone serve as our Assembly Fellow. And I knew instantly that he was somebody special, not because of the press releases or the stories, his academic prowess or his athletic feats on the field, but because of his mind, because of his heart, and because of what he wanted to do. And I knew this was somebody who I'd have a chance to work with, and already we were considering how are we going to fix our budget so that we could offer him employment as a legislative aide once the fellowship was over. Obviously, that didn't happen, and for the 2 years that I was away, he and I would text frequently, towards the end, infrequently. I know he was going through a lot, but never did his tone change, never did his outlook on life change. If anything, he was only more determined, he was only more inspirational. So it is with a very heavy heart that I also stand here to commemorate the memory and the love and the life of Mr. McGraw.
Mr. Thurman, you are also recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. I rise regretfully to add my voice to those who wish to adjourn in memory for Tyrone McGraw. It's very hard to get my mind around Tyrone's passing. We always talk about how proud we are of our fellows. I can't think of a fellow that we could be more proud of than Tyrone McGraw. He represented the best of us in any way that you could imagine. You heard his story today. It is an understatement to say that he overcame obstacles. He used his experience to help others. He was a teacher, he was a spokesperson, and when he took sick, he never, ever complained. Sometimes he'd send a text that said, "I had a bad day today," but he always had a hint of optimism that another day might be a better day. I had the honor of working with Tyrone. He served in our office when I arrived here in the Assembly, and I felt very much like what we heard today. He selected us to work with us. Tyrone really wanted to work with the Budget Subcommittee on Health and Human Services. We have 4-hour hearings twice a week. I never knew anybody who wanted to be there, but Tyrone did, because he lost loved ones to cancer, because he experienced poverty in a way that we only talk about, because he felt called to really help this House, help those who've been impacted by illness, by lack of opportunity, and by poverty. And he walked the walk every single day. I want to say thank you to all of you who donated time, personal leave, so that we could extend Tyrone's time here in the legislature. He needed to take breaks to focus on his efforts at recovery, and everyone in this legislature offered something to help Tyrone, and he deserved it. His accomplishments include, among other things, working on the Earned Income Tax Credit, the MCO tax, funding for supporting people with developmental disabilities, and helping to ensure that children were safe in dentistry, and countless, just countless budgetary items to help those who were low income, who dealt with health issues. I was amazed at how many people knew Tyrone McGraw. One time I was in the airport and I sat down while I was waiting for my flight. And I sat down in a restaurant and I got into a conversation with someone and they asked what I did. And I said I worked in the legislature. And they said, "Do you know my friend Tyrone McGraw?" And we took a selfie, or an ussie, or a groupie, I don't know what you call it. We took a picture that I texted to Tyrone, and it was one of his bad days. And he said it was, the person was one of his mentors. And he just perked up and he said thank you for sending that. Tyrone would send text messages every time we had a bill that had some success. He would just send a note, hey, good job, boss. Keep going, boss. And so I think all the time how I wish that I could have done and that I did more for Tyrone, because he did so much for us, and he never complained, and he never stopped fighting. And so I hope that what we do here, we do to honor Tyrone McGraw. I hope that we do two things, that we find a ceremonial way to acknowledge his time here and his contribution here. You know, they say it all the time, the bad things happen to good people. I can't think of anybody whose experience typifies that more. He never caught a break. And it's not a surprise to me that he still holds records as a running back and as a track athlete, because in spite of never catching a break, he just kept on running. He just kept on going. And so I hope that we find a way that's appropriate to remember his contributions to our legislature and to our state. And I hope that we all take it to heart the way that he did, that we're given a great opportunity to serve those who have less, who are sick, who have needs, but who have heart and want to have an opportunity, and that we will serve in a way that our service will be recognition of Tyrone's legacy here. I also want to ask that we acknowledge Tyrone's family who is here today, his sister, Tiara McGraw, his brother, Marcus Jules. He has 3 nieces here today, Malaya Jules, Micaiah Jules, and Shania Jules. And I would like to ask that we all pray for his family and support them, and that we also support his partner, Maite Sanchez, who always took care of Tyrone and stood by his side, even when he couldn't text anymore. And she's also part of this legislature and served in this legislature, and I hope that we will all reach out to her and show her love and support during this time. I ask that we adjourn in the memory of Tyrone McGraw.
Thank you, Mr. Thurman. Dr. Eggman, you are also recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. You know, I was struck. We began our time together in this legislature today on this floor honoring somebody who served decades, and a rightful honor it was. Some people come into this building and spend decades doing the work of the people and helping in innumerable ways. And then other people come for a short period of time, and yet their impact is no different. I think we just have to take the lessons in different kinds of ways. And for those of you who haven't seen the Tyrone speech that he did for his alma mater, when he could no longer drive and had trouble walking and getting up was a challenge, but he went and he gave that speech where he talks about you have to get up. You have to at least get up to get in the game. And that you have to believe in yourself when nobody else still does, that you believe in yourself. And when things don't work out the way that you think they're going to, you have to find a way. And I think you've heard everybody talk about the struggles Tyrone went through, how he overcame them. But I think also in this legislature we need to acknowledge that nobody does it alone. And while Tyrone was not my assembly fellow, his partner and girlfriend, Maite Sanchez, was. And she went through this struggle by his side. Also an extraordinary young person who didn't have a path paved with gold to get where she got to this assembly as a fellow, as a college graduate, and now as a policy analyst with the ISO. And somehow they found each other. And I think when we talk about those who have left, and we know Tyrone had a lot of losses, it heartens me to know that at the end he had somebody who never left his side. That this young couple, these young millennials who sometimes we don't take quite as seriously, that they defined what it means to be tenacious, to get up, to find a way, and to do what you can to leave a lasting impact. When he lost his ability to walk, they moved into a place And she never reached out for these things either. I'm like, how you doing? But you good to move? Well, you know, Tyrone is now a paraplegic, so we've had to move to a different place. We have some help. But it was just every step of the process where she didn't complain, she didn't really reach out, but you always just felt better knowing that she was there for him, and he for her. Doing a surprise party for her, taking her and a bunch of friends down to Vegas, being thoughtful. The two of them always just being thoughtful, being loving, being kind, not talking about their challenges, but talking about the goodness. So I also ask that we adjourn in the memory of Tyrone McGraw for everything he stood for, and to take those lessons, to get up, believe in yourself, and to find a way. I ask that we adjourn in his memory.